Does anybody know this spot? Cafe Latte, Leslie, absolutely. A wonderful place. In fact, I think I first ran into Carolyn Hinshaw there by surprise for breakfast. And they are dog friendly, by the way. They are. Oh, Juma. Have you been there, Juma? She could be my guest one day. Who knew that a single, very brief tweet coming straight from the heart of one United States citizen and his heritage, voicing hope for the good people of Hong Kong and their democratic hopes. Who knew that one little tweet would reverberate through the sports universe? Well, actually, we might have predicted that had we known that the tweet came from Daryl Morey. Who's Daryl Morey? Well, Daryl Morey is a general manager. He's the general manager of the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets. Now, this huge controversy, I hope you've heard about it, is very big because however noble I might consider Daryl's tweet, it was a major poke in the eye for China. This is the tweet that was heard round the world, or read round the world. Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong. Wow. Wow. Boom. You know why? Because basketball is big in China. Very big. 20 million people in the United States and Canada watched an NBA basketball game last year. You want to make a guess how many watched in China? Somebody was close back here. 400 million. Does that sound big? That's big. Let's define big, okay? We thought basketball was big here. It's very big. Who's the player up there that helped make basketball big? Huh? Yeah, Xiao Ming. He helped make basketball very big in China. The NBA China is worth $4 billion. And Tencent is the broadcasting service that the streaming deal with the NBA is $1.2 billion. So China, basketball, it's huge, huge. And frankly, when I think about that tweet, I actually feel a little embarrassed that I myself haven't tweeted that very same line. But had I done so, nobody would have noticed, right? Nor would they have noticed if you did it. But Daryl is a manager of the Houston Rockets, and China just kind of went ballistic. And now they are canceling all of their contracts and removing all of their ads and everything. Basketball is coming down in China. And I know you would have thought that the only place politics and sports collide is in the Olympics, right? Just wait for summer. It's coming. It will come. Business matters, doesn't it? Here's in the far upper right corner, you can see a worker, a Chinese worker, peeling that big NBA ad off a gigantic building. Business matters here. It matters in China. It matters all over the world because it matters to everyone, whoever we are. Business matters. I think the great irony is that because the communist government has banned Twitter, Most of those 400 million Chinese never saw, never will see that tweet. But those empowered did. Those empowered did. Darlene, as you know, is leading us into obedience to God's call and Jesus' directive to go ye therefore into your own neighborhood, right? To go and reach out to our neighbors. And she has chosen to focus her first efforts on the Freeport Business Corridor. How many businesses do you suppose lie along the Freeport Boulevard from Broadway all the way out to Floyd Levick's house in Freeport, right? I have no idea. I tried finding out. I have no idea. It's a lot. Darlene, you don't have any idea, do you? No. Hundreds and hundreds, right? Hundreds and hundreds of businesses. Do you know how many Darlene has already visited? 105. She's getting there. 55 plus, right? That's impressive, isn't it? Thank you, Darlene. God bless you. And I want to thank those of you who have gone with her already. And that number is growing and growing. And so I want to just keep impressing on the rest of us that, everyone needs to help and get on board with this effort, because you all do business somewhere here, don't you? Maybe it's your favorite, I was thinking, dry cleaners. I love my dry cleaners. I have a great relationship with my dry cleaners. But maybe there's another business that you know and like. Would you please invite Darlene and I to go with you with her incredibly powerful and simple question: what does our neighborhood need? What does our neighborhood need? Let's all get on board, okay? In his time, the prophet Jeremiah had a really tough audience. As Mark read to us, what was the situation in Judah? What was going on? Okay. Unhappy, yes. Why? Because Babylon had conquered their nation and hauled off all of the ruling elite, the king, the queen mother, and all of the educated people. That meant all of the scholars of the scriptures, all the priests, the high priests. Everybody was hauled off to Babylon. And God had a message for them. But you know what? There were other messengers around. There were false prophets who were all too ready to tell the people in exile in Babylon what they wanted to hear most. Give it a couple years. Just hang tight. Keep your bags packed, because soon God is going to lead us out of here, take us back to Jerusalem, and we'll rebuild the temple together. That's what they wanted to hear. And that was the message that those false prophets were giving them. But that wasn't God's message. And Jeremiah warned them, don't listen to them. That's not the voice of God. I know it's not it's a message that you would love to hear, but that's not God's message. And so Jeremiah had to give them God's actual message, which was unpack your bags. Settle down. Settle in. Because it's going to be at least 70 years. That's 70, like our age. Meaning what? A generation. A generation will pass before you go home and we begin to rebuild. They didn't want to hear that. That would be a hard message, wouldn't it? Some of you aren't even going back. But God says, so therefore, get invested right where you are. Buy the land. Have your young people marry one another and build your population. Seek the welfare of the city I sent you to in exile. That was God's word. It was a hard one. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's hard for me too. God says, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. Well, even today there are false prophets who would tell those of us in the church, stay in your lane, religious people, right? Go sit in your house of worship from week to week and leave the rest of us alone. You deal with spiritual things and we'll deal with the world. Well, that's not God. And that's not God's message for God's people. Jerlene tells us that when she has gone out to these 55 plus businesses, for the most part, they have no idea who we are. What church? Oh, the one next to. Yeah, the one next to. Notice that the only way they have a bearing, a reading on us is through a business, right? That's really well known and apparently well loved because hamburgers are going there 24/7, it seems like, right? That's how they know us for now. Business matters, don't you think? How do you think the life of businesses along the Freeport corridor affect the welfare of our neighbors? Do you think it does? Oh, yeah. In what ways? A place to shop? What else? How does business matter? A place to socialize? The third place of Starbucks, right? What else? Provides employment. What kind of employment? Is it fair employment? Is it safe employment? Is it a just wage employment? That's our business, right? Our business is to seek the welfare of our neighbors in this capital city. How else does business affect the lives of our neighbors? In so many ways, doesn't it? We could be here forever, for a long time. Jerlene tells us that the number one concern every business names is homelessness. That's right. Why would they care? Well, yeah, just like us, right? They share a lot of our own struggles with people in need of shelter in so many different ways. It's our business. Don't you think that if there is a solution to the tragedy of homelessness in our lives, in their lives, that it will have ultimately something to do with business? You bet it will. It must. It has to. There is no one sector that's going to solve homelessness. And so we need to become partners with people committed to finding just solutions, compassionate solutions. We need compassionate and just leaders in business. What's our role in that? Of raising up. I'm hoping some of these young people here today will become business leaders. What do we do to get them ready, to prepare them for that kind of role? The thing that Jerlene said that really piques my interest, she said, a lot of folks have mentioned that they would be interested in a Freeport Business Association. There isn't one right now. There's nothing. There's no means, no forum, no venue for business leaders along the Freeport corridor to get together and to bring entrepreneurs together with that creative financial resources to begin to work on some of our common needs. Seek the welfare of the people in the city. That's our business. What if we became the 11 centennial for that Freeport Business Association? Like we have been 11 for the South Sacramento Food Bank, right? We've been the 11 for outreach to the young students at Hollywood Park Elementary. What if we were the 11, the place for them to meet, to organize, to begin, to birth a Freeport Business Association? How many of you are connected to business? I know some of you are retired, but some of you are still employed by a business, right? What was that? Oh, yes, thank you. Kay is reminding us that the state is big business. When we fill out our profile for Centennial, we always say that, don't we? That a lot of employment here counts on state government. Of course it does. We're the capital. So let me invite you again. Imagine what might happen if we made neighbors. Remember, Jesus' definition is neighbors don't just happen. You make neighbors. If we made neighbors of the local businesses here, what's possible? What's possible in the lives of all the people who are touched by those businesses? I believe it's so much. So think of a business that you know well or you're comfortable with, and invite Jerlene and I to go with you and be neighborly and introduce ourselves and look for common values and common resources and common needs that we might use together to seek the welfare of God's children here in Sacramento along the Freeport. It's a very long corridor when you think about it. Along the Freeport corridor, because that is our mission field, Centennial. That is where God sends us. Will you remember that as you consider what your gifts are for this place and this time, and what God asks of you personally to give? Be blessed in all that you do as we seek to be faithful people.